Some people call 911 for emergencies. Others call because McDonald's ran out of nuggets. 1. The chicken nugget crisis. A woman in Florida once called 911 because her McDonald's ran out of chicken nuggets. Not because someone was hurt, not because she was in danger, because her craving was. She demanded police enforce the transaction and arrest the cashier for breach of nugget duty. Dispatch tried to explain that running out of food isn't a felony. Her response? It should be. Officers arrived, mostly to confirm that yes, humanity had reached a new low. Somewhere in a police report, there's an official record of nugget-related dispute. That's not justice. That's fast food philosophy gone feral. 2. The wrong sandwich emergency. In Ohio, a man called 911 after Subway disrespected his order. The offense? Too little mayo. He wanted law enforcement to teach them how to make a real sandwich. When dispatch told him that condiment distribution was not a police matter, he shouted, "Then what is your job?" Apparently, protecting and serving doesn't extend to sandwich integrity. Officers were dispatched, not to arrest Subway, but to remind the caller that culinary disappointment is not a criminal act. Somewhere, Jared is shaking his head in shame, and not for the usual reasons. 3. The missing fries investigation. A woman in Georgia dialed 911 because her drive-thru fries were cold. She demanded a full investigation before the evidence went stale. The dispatcher probably aged 10 years during that call. When police arrived, they didn't cuff anyone. They just gave her a life lesson. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for abusing common sense." The best part? She was on probation, so the call actually did land her in jail. Congratulations, ma'am. You turned soggy fries into a felony. 4. The haunted bathroom incident. A man in Kentucky once called 911 because there was a ghost in his bathroom. He claimed he could hear breathing behind the shower curtain. Officers arrived, prepared for the supernatural, or more likely, intoxication. They drew their weapons, pulled back the curtain, and found a Roomba. The man had mistaken his automatic vacuum for a paranormal intruder after it somehow rolled into the bathroom and shut the door behind itself. The report literally read, "False alarm. Robot possession unlikely." Somewhere, that Roomba is still recovering from being treated like the Exorcist's final boss. 5. The pizza slice hostage situation. In Michigan, a woman dialed 911 because her boyfriend ate her last slice of pizza. She told dispatch it was an act of betrayal and that she needed justice. When the operator tried to clarify, she doubled down. "This is domestic theft." Officers showed up, probably hoping for anything resembling an emergency. They found her still holding the empty pizza box like evidence in a courtroom drama. The boyfriend was unharmed, but the relationship didn't survive. Turns out love can handle many things, except the last slice. 6. The stuck-in-a-car saga. A couple in Tennessee called 911 to report they were trapped inside their car. The doors, they said, wouldn't open. Dispatch stayed calm and asked if the vehicle was on fire or locked. The man replied, "No, it's just, not letting us out." The operator asked the crucial question, "Have you tried unlocking it manually?" There was a long silence, followed by a sheepish, "Oh." They had been inside a perfectly functioning car with the engine running and the doors unlocked for nearly 45 minutes. Humanity, 0. Door handles undefeated. 7. The bad hair day emergency. A woman in California called 911 from a salon because her haircut didn't match the photo. She insisted it was a case of cosmetic assault. When dispatch explained that bad styling isn't a crime, she demanded to press charges for emotional damage. The stylist, meanwhile, was just standing there holding scissors, wondering how her day had turned into a hostage negotiation over bangs. Officers arrived, confirmed that her haircut was indeed tragic, but not illegal. Somewhere in the fine print of civilization, we forgot to add, 911 is not Yelp. 8. The cat that looked suspicious. A man in Oregon called 911 because there was a sketchy cat sitting outside his house. He claimed it had been staring at him for over 30 minutes and might be up to something. When police arrived, the cat didn't move because it was a garden statue. The man apologized, saying it looked too judgmental to be fake. The officers left, probably questioning their career choices, while the stone feline remained the neighborhood's most stoic criminal. 9. The McMuffin meltdown. At 10:35 a.m. sharp, a man in Arizona called 911 because McDonald's stopped serving breakfast. The dispatcher thought he was joking. He wasn't. He demanded police make them cook one more McMuffin because, and I quote, "It's still morning in my heart." Officers arrived only to explain that emotional time zones aren't recognized by the restaurant industry. He was banned from that location, ensuring that his relationship with breakfast ended the way all great love stories do, with heartbreak, shame, and a sausage-shaped restraining order. 10. The lemonade stand investigation. In Colorado, a neighbor called 911 to report an illegal business operation. The suspects? 2 kids selling lemonade on the sidewalk for 50 cents. The caller claimed it was unlicensed food distribution and potentially dangerous to the economy. When officers arrived, they bought lemonade, told the kids to keep the change, and reminded the caller that shutting down a lemonade stand doesn't count as community service. Somewhere, an HOA president just fainted from joy. 11. The missing phone emergency. A man in North Carolina called 911 to report his phone had been stolen. The operator asked where he was calling from. His reply, "My phone." There was a full 5 seconds of silence while the dispatcher tried to process that. Turns out he'd been holding his phone the entire time, talking on it, while filing a theft report about it. When the operator gently pointed this out, he said, "Well, now it's found. You guys are fast." If Stupidity were a subscription service, this man had the premium plan. 12. The Burger King kidnapping. A woman in Ohio called 911 because she claimed Burger King had kidnapped her order. Her food took more than 5 minutes, which she described as unlawful detainment. She wanted police to free her Whopper. When dispatch told her that burgers can't be held hostage, she insisted she had rights as a paying citizen. Officers arrived to find her filming a live Facebook rant titled "Justice for Fast Food." Her fries were cold, her dignity colder, and somewhere a dispatcher quietly updated her case file to "Victim of her own hunger." 13. The toilet paper shortage emergency. During the Great Toilet Paper Panic of 2020, a man in California called 911 because his local store was out of essentials. When dispatch asked what kind of essentials, he yelled, "The wiping kind." He demanded that police escort him to a supply. The operator calmly explained that toilet paper isn't a protected right under the Constitution. He then asked if officers could at least bring a roll from the station. Somewhere in that call log, an entire police department collectively sighed, realizing civilization had officially gone down the drain. 14. The meteor shower panic. One night in Nevada, dispatch received a frantic call from a man screaming that aliens were attacking. Turns out it was the annual Perseid meteor shower. He'd seen 5 streaks of light in the sky and immediately went full Independence Day. Officers showed up to find him hiding behind his pickup truck, armed with a frying pan. They tried explaining astronomy. He insisted it was government propaganda. The report closed with, "Caller advised to stop watching the History Channel after midnight." 15. The wrong number hostage crisis. A woman in New York called 911 to report that her husband was being held hostage. Police raced to her address. Sirens, lights, the whole 9 yards. Turns out he wasn't kidnapped. He was locked in their bathroom because the doorknob fell off. She'd been yelling through the door, couldn't hear him answer, and assumed the worst. By the time officers arrived, the husband had unscrewed the hinge and walked out, confused and holding a plunger like a weapon. The dispatcher later admitted it was the safest hostage rescue of the year. 16. The stolen snow incident. A woman in Wisconsin called 911 after discovering that her driveway had been mysteriously cleared of snow overnight. Instead of gratitude, she filed a theft report. She accused her neighbors of stealing her snow for personal use. When the responding officer explained that snow isn't property, she said, "Then why is it always on my lawn?" The officer just stared into the middle distance, questioning his career choices while Mother Nature quietly face-palmed in the background. 17. The missing alarm clock case. At 3 a.m., police in Illinois got a call from a woman claiming her neighbor was tapping Morse code through the walls to mess with her dreams. Officers arrived to discover her alarm clock. It had fallen behind the bed and was quietly ticking against the wall. When they showed her, she gasped and said, "So, it was psychological warfare." The cops left without comment. Somewhere in their squad car, one of them whispered, "We don't get paid enough for this." 18. The broken TV conspiracy. A man in Texas called 911 because his cable TV went out during the Super Bowl. He accused his provider of sabotage and demanded the FBI restore the feed immediately. When dispatch explained that the FBI does not handle sports broadcasting, he yelled, "Then who does?" and hung up. Police showed up anyway for a welfare check, only to find him sitting shirtless, watching static, and narrating the imaginary game like a sports commentator in denial. Final score? Cowboys. 0, common sense. We won. 19. The stuck-in-a-tree self-rescue call. In Oregon, a man went hiking, climbed a tree to get a better selfie angle, and realized he couldn't get down. Naturally, he called 911. When the operator asked if he could just jump, he said, "That's not very professional advice." A full rescue team arrived, equipped with ropes and helmets, only to find him about 7 feet off the ground. One firefighter simply extended a hand and helped him down. Cost to taxpayers, $2,300. Cost to his pride, unrecoverable. Somewhere, the forest whispered, Darwin would have handled this differently. 20. The loud frog complaint. A Florida woman called 911 at midnight to report a suspicious sound in her backyard. Officers arrived expecting an intruder. Instead, they found a frog. A single, very vocal frog. She insisted it was mocking her and demanded they remove it from the premises. When police refused, she yelled, "So anyone can just make noise now?" The officer politely informed her that yes, that's how frogs work. She hung up mid-rant. Somewhere in the swamp, that frog is still croaking triumphantly, free and undefeated. 21. The emergency hair in my soup case. At a restaurant in Idaho, a man called 911 to report a biohazard. The crime? A single hair in his soup. When dispatch clarified that it wasn't life-threatening, he argued that emotional trauma counts. The police showed up anyway, mostly to explain that the emergency line is not a Yelp review service. He tried to file an official statement titled, Soupgate. The officer wrote, "Resolved. Victim declined refund. Ego remains injured." Somewhere in that report, civilization officially hit rock bottom and then ordered dessert. 22. The Parrot 911 Marathon. In Colorado, police received over a dozen silent 911 calls in one afternoon, all traced to the same house. When officers arrived, they found the culprit, a parrot. The bird had learned to mimic the sound of a cell phone's emergency button and was pressing it repeatedly while squawking, "Help!" When the owner apologized, the officer joked, "Don't worry, ma'am, he's got the right to remain squawky." The parrot now holds the local record for most unnecessary SWAT response by a pet. 23. The lost GPS panic. A tourist couple in Utah called 911 to report they were trapped in the wilderness. The dispatcher asked for their coordinates. They said, "We don't know. The GPS just says recalculating." Turns out, they were in a parking lot, behind their hotel. The GPS had fallen off the windshield and was lying upside down, repeating recalculating on loop. When officers arrived, they were found sitting on the curb, wrapped in blankets like disaster survivors. It was 68 degrees outside. Humanity, still buffering. 24. The suspicious donut box. In Pennsylvania, a man called 911 after spotting a suspicious package on his neighbor's porch. He described it as round, ticking, and possibly explosive. Police evacuated the street, brought in the bomb squad, only to discover it was a box of Krispy Kreme donuts, still warm. The ticking sound? The delivery driver's cooling fan. The man apologized profusely, claiming he just wanted to be a hero. "Congratulations, sir. You saved your neighborhood from carbohydrates." Somewhere, a dozen glazed survivors lived to see another breakfast. 25. The Wi-Fi emergency. A teenager in Arizona called 911 because the internet stopped working. When dispatch asked if anyone was hurt, she said, "Me, emotionally." She demanded a tech officer be sent immediately. Police arrived only to discover her dad had unplugged the router to make her do homework. She tried to file cruelty to teenager charges. The officer confiscated her phone for the night, technically making him the first responder and the villain in her upcoming TikTok rant titled "My Dad is a Dictator." 26. The mystery smoke call. A man in Maine phoned 911 to report suspicious gray smoke rising from his backyard. Firefighters raced to the scene, hoses ready, only to discover he'd left his barbecue on low and forgotten. When they pointed it out, he said, "Oh, that's my brisket." The fire captain replied, "Sir, Your brisket just cost us 12 gallons of diesel. Somewhere, there's a perfectly good brisket that tasted faintly of shame and taxpayer money. 27. The stuck-in-a-swing operation. A grown man in Nevada decided it would be funny to sit in a child's playground swing for nostalgia. 15 minutes later, he called 911 from the swing set because he couldn't get out. The fire department had to cut him loose with power tools while an entire crowd of amused children watched. He asked if they could keep it discreet. They couldn't, because a photo of the incident made the local paper under the headline, "Man Trapped in Childhood." Never before has irony looked so perfectly seated. 28. The missing person. Who was herself? And finally, the grand finale, the gold medal of dumb 911 calls. A woman in Iceland joined a search party looking for a missing tourist. The group spent hours combing fields and rivers, calling out descriptions: female, dark hair, medium height. After several hours, she suddenly realized they were describing her. She hadn't recognized the report because she'd changed clothes after leaving her tour bus. She sheepishly announced, "I think I found her." The search was called off, and she went down in history as the first person to successfully locate herself. Humanity, 0. Self-awareness, still loading. And there you have it, proof that stupidity always finds a signal. Which one wins dumbest 911 call ever? Tell me below, before someone dials emergency for boredom.